Hello YouTube, what up? It's Sen here. I was making a beat for my Boom Bap Friday beat drops on my beat channel, which I'll have a link somewhere in the description. Go check that out. We got trap every Tuesday. We got new Boom Bap every Friday. So go check that out. That's what I'm making right now. But I was having an issue, and I thought it was a good problem-solving moment that I wanted to share with you guys, because I'm sure if you're grabbing samples from records or you're grabbing samples from Splice, you're wondering sometimes, like, oh, why doesn't this fit in to my drums? Like, I made the beat, why does my sample kind of sound out of place? Like, what can I do to really like kind of like merge that sample in with all the other elements of the beat? And that's a very common problem that you will face if you're doing sample-based hip-hop producing. So let me play the sample real quick. I added this chops are just for swing settings, which I have in the MPC 3000, but that's not important. It should sound about the same as the original sample. And that is my opening with some halftime sent to it. Without the halftime, if we go over here and just solo it, and as you can kind of see, this is very unruly. You have two different elements to this sample, which I kind of am not too stoked about. Then you have the pad in the background doing just some crazy like panning. It's not sharp enough for me. And so if you hear this in context of my drums and my bass and everything else that I have prepared for the beat, this is what it sounds like with no processing. Everything's on time. Everything seems to, connect, but there just seems to be like something just sounds wrong. Like nothing sounds good about that sample being inside of these drums. And so how do we fix that? Well, first of all, something I didn't have on my original chain that I'm going to add, which we talked about in our last video, is a compressor. So I'm going to bring in a Pro C2. I'm going to move this to the top of my stack. I guess right now it doesn't really matter. I'm going to play this. I'm going to loop this on. Something else I wanted to do, the sample just seemed like a little bit dry to me. So something you can do with that, instead of boosting volume, you can add any kind of saturation you have, any kind of saturation plugin. You could use Decapitator. If you're in Logic, you have a great distortion plugin. If you're in Studio One, you have the Red Light District that works really good too. I'm a Fab Filter fanboy, so you could use Saturn, which I normally would use Saturn, but in this case I recently got the VSM3 from Plugin Alliance, and this is a great harmonic saturator that I use lightly on my mix bus, which I'll do a video on my mix bus channel strips in the future and everything I use and how I use it to make really hard-hitting boom bap sounding beats with a nice like vintage touch to it without overdoing it or adding any unnecessary noise or static. So here we have this going. I'm switching this to the mid side. So I have slightly less. Let's see. distortion stuff and see what you like, because there's no correct way to mix distortion. It's so dependent on every variable, a genre, and music taste, its subjectability, that I can't even tell you what to do. And you shouldn't be listening to anybody on YouTube telling you what to do for that either. The next, we have a slight reverb. Once again, using FabFilter stuff, but you can do whatever. The only thing that I'm doing that might be a little more complex than your normal reverb is that I'm taking the decay on the top ends and I'm just chopping it down so that decay is only normal around like 1400 hertz, and then I'm completely dropping the decay from the low end because that's just muddy, and then I'm mixing a little bit out around 300, around like the boxy areas, just so it doesn't like build up in that area and make our beat sound unnecessarily like dense and muddy. I have the mix at like 14%. With the Pro R, you can usually get higher percentages by adjusting the settings on your screen and your curve, but if you do not have an EQ based reverb system like you're using, let me just bring up a reverb. Usually you're going to want your mix somewhere around like 10%. You can go a little bit over 10%. If you're doing like room stuff, you I would say don't make the room too big if you have a huge stack, because all the elements inside of your sample will be affected by this, and if you're making this too wide, you're going to shoot some shit that was not meant to be shot out in the original song really far out and kind of fuck yourself over. So I would definitely stay, you know, under 15. Don't over reverb your stuff. It's a beginner mistake. I'm gonna remove that. Next, I have an EQ, and without this EQ, the tops would just driving the same background. You hear what I'm talking about? And this sample also has like all that bass tone, and I have my own bass tones, so I don't really want the sample's bass tone, so that's why I'm taking out everything around like 100. I'm starting to dip. Everything below like 40 should be mostly cut. And then here, I'll play the sample and I'll explain what I'm doing. Solo this area. So this is getting close to to make a slight reduction inside of our sample while maintaining what we really like about it, which for me is that Rhodes is definitely the most important thing. And then here I have, this is a resonance, I'm pretty sure, for yeah, how like airy that is, just like nonsensical. Last thing we're doing is we're putting a sidechain compressor on this stack. Also, I really would recommend people do this if they're trying to make that old 90s style like Jay Dilla, you're trying to be DJ Premier. This is like almost necessary, man. You want your sample to be different. Just adds a lot more weight. Much better. And if we take that whole stack off, just like this, how I would go about problem solving your sample. You know, look at the things that are making you mad. What do you like about it? What can you emphasize? Can you get away with some saturation? Is everything inside here? Because everything inside here could have benefited from some saturation in the background stuff, and the roads could use it. If only one element can use it, you might want to hold back using that, or you want to do a send, where you're EQing the distortion or saturation to a specific area in your frequency, which I'll do another video on that because I do that all the time. As you see, my bass distortion, I have the area where I want to put the distortion on the bass, and then I have the distortion, some tape saturation and distortion for that specific area. So that's really important to think about. You know, what do you want to EQ? And if you're EQing for a certain sound, like what else in your sample is getting affected by that EQ? Are you causing phase issues? Very important to think about. Also, consider side chaining. I would always just check the side chain on the kick. If you want to do it on the bass too, that's cool. Sometimes doing the sample and the bass with the same side chain is a little bit overkill, and you might just want to do one of them, but it's always good to just check. It's always good to know your side chaining. I process pretty fast, so you can just test that. And then what else do we have on here that I can talk about? Reverb. Just don't overdo your reverb. Do your reverb like last. So many people early on in producing just over reverb everything, and your song's not gonna sound good like that. Like, it might, like, at first, but the more you listen to it and you're going back, your song's not gonna last. Like, it's not gonna cut it. So you got to be very careful about reverb if you're a beginner producer. But other than that, I think that will conclude this video. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a like, subscribe. I'm gonna be doing so many more mixing, beat making tutorials. If you want to take your game to the next level, you want to learn creative strategies, problem solving, you're making beats and you're just getting frustrated, and you're just like, fuck, what do I do? That's what this channel is for. You know, those are the type of things that I'm looking for, and I'm trying to help people out with all my mixing experience and beat making experience, also artistic experience. Follow my beat channel, follow my BeatStars, buy some beats if you want to, hit me up for some deals. I'll leave my email down in the description. Yeah, just starting on this channel. Let's get it growing. Peace out. Sign out.